Phelps, who is the original Tacky Box Kid. And I'm excited to hear from you what that means from you. Tell me what you remember about those early days.
Okay, well, basically, I do remember the first day when I came home and I said that word. I think every time I hear it, kind of gets me a little bit because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that very embarrassing moment. But I do think that it was just handled in a really, really smart way. I like to give my mom props for that. But I just think that she was really thinking like on her toes, and just coming up with that was really smart.
Do you remember what she said to you? Like, what's your recollection of it?
I just remember I said it and she was definitely taken aback. She definitely was. But something about her is she always like, she lets me think about things. She doesn't just tell me that I'm doing something wrong. She'll tell me, and what do we do about that? So I don't remember exactly what she said, but I remember in that moment, in that situation, she was like, okay, well, we don't want to go around saying that because that's not like a kind thing to be saying. So what do we do? What can we do instead? And then I remember just in the days, weeks, months following, that's when the idea for Tacky Box started coming about. And then I was really down with it because, it like she didn't force it on me, and we kind of came up with it together. I'll say.
Yeah, that's definitely how she tells the story, is that you're the one that kind of turned it into something because you started using it as a way to kind of make sense of the kind of person you wanted to be in the world. Is that how it felt even back then?
Yeah, it did. I loved that she kind of let me come up with a little bit of it myself.
Yeah, kind of co-created it.
Mm-hmm.
And as you got older and you watched Tacky Box like go into schools and whatnot, how did it manifest in your life and in your home while it was growing out in the world? Do you remember any examples?
That's actually a really good question. I don't know. I feel like just seeing it be in schools, like seeing other kids doing it, just made it feel all the more special to me and my brother. Especially me, since I played a part in it actually being created. That feels like I'm bragging, but I'm not trying to. But I don't know, it felt really special because it felt like a part of my family was just out there. Like, honestly, it felt like a part of myself was out there. And honestly, it just made me happy, and it made me value it even more. And just a quick little thing, like one of my favorite things is one of my friends now, one of my absolute best friends, her name's Jasmine. We were just talking, and I was telling her about what I did over the summer before my junior year, and I was telling her about how we worked on that Tacky Box show, about how I really, really enjoyed it. And she was like, oh, Tacky Box, like, they came to my school. That's so funny. And so I just thought that was so cute, like this little thing keeping us together. And that makes me really happy because it's like I know that it's like all around Dallas. And wow. I don't know, it just makes me all the more happy that it was my friend.
Yeah, that is really wild. Like, when y'all were little, she was out in her life and y'all didn't know each other, and she was exposed to Tacky Box, and then she met you later and found out you were the origin story. That's wild.
I know, it makes me so happy.
Tell me how you would describe it for people who know nothing about it.
I would say that it is one of the most simple ways to teach a kid about kindness. And I think that it's really effective because, again, like I was saying before, it actually makes the kid think. It's not just telling this kid, hey, what you're doing is bad, don't do that. Because that just embarrasses them, It lets them make their own decision. And honestly, I think that it could even be a very valuable tool for a lot of like teenagers or adults because, again, like nobody really wants to be told what to do. But I think they need to take some advice from these kids who are actually using the Tacky Box in school and at home. I have respect for those kids because they've made the active choice.
Yeah, making that active choice for sure. And just from stories I've heard, it seems like those early experiences where your mom would really like co-create plans with you about how to handle stuff if it got sticky or complicated, then as you got older, that was almost like embedded for you, almost like a filter, like a way you operated in the world. Is that how it felt to you? And if so, do you have any examples?
Yes, that is how it felt. I'm trying to think of examples, but I can't think of super old ones just because my memory gets a little fuzzy. Sorry, but just I think just life today. I feel like it's just still stuck with me because, like last week, for example, I don't know. There was obviously it's high school. Kids are gonna be interesting, but there was this kid in my math class and he was just kind of being rude to another one, and obviously like I wasn't thinking too much of it because again it's high school, what are you going to do about it? But I don't know, I just started thinking like what if that was like me? I don't know, like what if I was the person who was being rude to this kid, like, and I think it just made me kind of think because it was like I definitely would not have ever said those things, and it just made me think back to the whole Tacky Box thing and just how my mom kind of like helped me like implement these ideas in my mind about how you should be acting and how you should be treating others. And I think a bit of a common misconception about Tacky Box is if you don't know too much about it, obviously that's not me because, you know, I'm the Tacky Box Kid. But if you don't know too much about it, it kind of, just based off appearance, you can kind of think, oh, this is just telling kids not to say bad words, not to like call other children mean phrases. But I very strongly disagree with this, especially like working on that show, just getting to see the script and the dialogue. Just like when we were sitting at the writer's table, there were little moments when we were writing the script at first, when somebody would suggest an idea and it would be more like based on this simple idea of Tacky Box, this idea that, oh, it's just to make sure that kids aren't saying like bad words, aren't like calling each other just random rude names. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember exactly what the line was, but there was an instance where this happened and I was like, no, that's definitely not what we want. And I remember I changed it to be a little more like, I don't know, it's kind of bad. I just made an even worse insult, but the insult was more just like, you're stupid. But I changed it to be more like, I don't know, like cut it to the core. Yeah. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, that I do think of that.
I'm glad you brought that up because to me it makes it clear that having lived through this all these years, it isn't a simple cutesy thing. It's like simplicity on the other side of complexity, and it has created like almost like a compass for you of who you want to be in the world and how you want to show up. One that's always thinking about the other people around you, not just your own experience. But tell me if I got that right.
Honestly, I would agree with that. I do feel like it's more of a complex thing than it seems at first. Tacky Box, I mean. And again, like what we were talking about earlier about how like these ideas were implemented in my mind at such a young age and they just kind of grew up with me. And I feel like I'm going back to the same thing I was talking about earlier, but I feel like all the things I've said are very important because Tacky Box just as a whole has kind of grown up with me, like not even just like outside in the real world, like not just like the show or like the fact that the company itself is growing. I feel like just since, you know, I've been thinking about these things since I was a little kid, it's just like as I've gotten older, as I've matured, so have these ideas, is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. And as you've gotten older, as you've matured, the things you've had to deal with are a lot more complex than when you were a little one dropping F words or 4-letter words, I should say. I might have like scandalized it far more than it really was. I imagine having teens myself, like it's a tall order to navigate complex social situations. What helps you and how do you think about that?
Um, Honestly, the first thing I try to do is, I guess, dumb it down a little bit. I try to think, okay, this person is feeling this way because okay, like person one said this, so person two is feeling this way. But
Yeah.
why did person one say this? I don't know. I try to kind of bring it back to like when I was a kid and when it was pretty simple, because a lot of the times it's not that simple. Um, and then I go from there. I try to think of other people's perspectives, like what pushed them to say this. But in the end of the day, I don't know. One, my mom has always said this, like actions speak louder than words. So I try not to take people's actions or words too personally unless it's a consistent thing. Um, but also another thing, my mother also gave me this book, The Four Agreements. I read it for my TOK class, but it said something about just like speaking impeccably. And a lot of people, when they say things, it's not what they really mean. It's their own stuff. They don't speak with malicious intent. It's really just what's going on in their mind, and that's another thing I always try to think about. Obviously, it's difficult because if somebody is saying something hurtful to you, they're intentionally trying to hurt you. But you have to remember that that's not really probably it's probably not what they want to do. It's probably their own stuff, and that's another thing that my mom's been teaching me since I was really young, and that's another thing that I've kind of like learned to take away from Tacky Box, because it's like or you're getting these words and these phrases that hurt you, and you're putting them away so you don't say them. And I think that's important because it's not just like scolding and shaming this other person. It's again a decision that you make yourself. And I think that it starts so simple for kids, but like as we're talking about, it grows up with you. Does that make sense?
It
I'm sorry, I'm
totally
trying to phrase
does.
this.
No, it completely does. And your capacity at 17 to take the perspective of other people feels beyond your years to me. Do you get that feedback from other people?
I have gotten that a lot. People like to call me an old soul, and I don't know how to take it some of the time.
Does that make things easier for you or harder or a mixture?
Um, I think both, a mixture. I think that for me, in a way, it's easier because I don't know, I don't have to fight so hard to understand why people are doing what they're doing. I just kind of see it and I get it. Which, again, that sounds like I'm bragging, but I'm not. It's just my experience. But then also, it is kind of difficult sometimes when you just know that another person in the situation is not like as mature. I don't want to call people immature, but there are always going to be people out in the world that are of a less maturity level than you or me or whoever. And I think that sometimes you just got to acknowledge that, like, they're not on my like mental level, I guess. And that doesn't even have to be a bad thing, but just in my personal life, I like people around me that are of the same like mental maturity level or just mental level as me.
Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like you've got ideas of how you want to navigate the world, and you'll be surrounded by people who sometimes don't see it that way or have the same capacity or whatever. It sounds like you have a preference to be surrounded by people who can kind of meet you there, but you have the skill set to know how to navigate it when you have encounters with people who are not able to meet you there. What has that looked like as a teenager?
That's a good question. I would say that I don't know. I really just try to take it day by day. I try not to let my judgments of anybody like are they on the same mentality? Are they on the same wavelength as me? I try to not let those assumptions run too far because I don't want to just, make these assumptions about a person because, they could be having a bad day, a bad week, whatever. But it's more just like I'll kind of watch people, just how they act around me, how they treat me for, I think, like a few months, I'd say. And then at the end of it, I'll just kind of determine, okay, is this somebody I want to like stay around? And if not, I'll kind of just start like backing away.
Yeah.
And obviously, I do have to make a disclaimer. It's like, it's not always, I think that's another thing that Tacky Box has taught me. It's not always that somebody's a bad person. It's just like you don't click, and that's not even always a bad thing. It's what I'm saying about like maturity level, like mental level, mental like wavelengths. It's just some people don't click. Some people are just different in those areas. And as I'm saying, like, I feel like I have a different maturity level than some people. That doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Again, it's just they're going to go off with different people and I'm going to go off with different people. Like, they can still have completely valid and intelligent, like, answers to questions, but I just think it's the way people react in certain situations.
Mm-hmm. You sound so free for your age in terms of kind of creating your reality, navigating social circles in a way that you don't feel trapped, but you also don't feel judgy. Like, how did you get to be that way?
Honestly, one, I feel like my mom, I know she's going to watch this and be like, oh. But, yeah, I feel like I don't know, she's always taught me that, like, I don't have to keep myself in any situation if I don't want to. And then I think that really sunk in with me during, like, 2020, like, the COVID years, because, I don't know, I think I was just alone so much, so I let myself think. I just, like, I read a lot, looked out my window a lot. I just kind of pondered,
Yeah.
And I think that just gave me time to understand what it was like to be on my own. And then when we came back, I threw myself into having all these friends, but eventually I realized that if I didn't like being around somebody, I did not have to. And, as upsetting as it is to, like, lose a friend, lose a person, like, anybody that you value time spent with, you have to think that there is really nothing tying you to this person unless they're your family member. Then I would get when it would be really difficult. But if it's just, somebody that you spend time with, you have to make the conscious decision. Can't talk today. You have to make the conscious decision to either, stay around them or to just take a step back. And I think that it's really just a yes or no thing. Like, am I going to stay around this person? Yes or no?
I have the face I have right now because I feel like women my age are just figuring this out. And so I'm projecting forward, like, what does it look like to have that level, to be self-possessed at that level at 17 and just be really clear that there will be people who move in and out of your life and you get to make choices about who you spend time with and who you invest in. And so when you project forward, are you able to think about like what do you imagine for yourself in college and after college because of this
Honestly,
foundation?
I'm not super sure, but I'm not really upset with being unsure, I think. I think, let me think of a way to put this. I feel like I kind of take comfort in the unfamiliar. To not know what's coming next, I think that is somewhat of a gift. I wouldn't like it to have my life all planned out. I kind of just take it, again, I've said this before in this conversation, I kind of just like to take it day by day and just see what I'm feeling in the morning. But obviously this year I have started planning more because, I'm applying to colleges. But I don't really have a rest of my life plan. I'm just kind of starting to form my, okay, what do I want to do for the next 4 years plan?
Yeah. And when you think about the beginnings of that plan, what emerges as important to you?
I want to go somewhere that I enjoy, whether that's the people, the place, the school. I just want to find something that I love about it. And I feel like that's pretty easy for me. I can kind of do that anywhere, so it's not really going to be a whole big thing. But I don't know. I would like to go somewhere that I like, and I would like to meet people I like.
Yeah. Do you know what you want to study? And are you still kind of thinking about that?
I'm figuring that out, but I have found a lot of things I'm interested in. Obviously, on the Tacky Box show, my love for films kind of brought back because, oh, if you could see the little movies me and my brother made when we were kids, oh, we had some acting skills, let me tell you that. But I got to actually do that on an official standpoint, not just on my mom's iPhone 5 at my grandparents' house. I learned a lot about that, and I just find it so fascinating. And that's another thing that I'm so grateful for Tacky Box for. It helped me really discover, or I guess rediscover, my love for like making movies, editing, acting, and I feel like it gave me so much good experience for my IB film class at school. Not to talk about school, but
Yeah.
I love that class.
Now that's wonderful. Tell me what you did this summer, just briefly, like what was involved in producing that show?
Well, first, I feel like we started a lot before the summer. This was this summer before my junior year, so I guess it was last summer. That sounds right. But it started before the summer. My mom came to me and she's like, "We want to develop a show for Tacky Box, an adaptation of the books." And I remember I was so excited. This was like the best news I'd ever heard. And she was like, "Do you want to be involved in it?" And I was like, "Absolutely, absolutely." So first we really just started with the script, with all the pre-production requirements to make a show. So we would just sit at this round table and we would brainstorm. And we had a lot of meetings of this. And we would it was kind of just like we'd do something, the previous one, like we'd make a script and then we'd come back in the next one and we'd read it out loud and we'd be like, okay, no, this sounds stupid. Like, we need to get rid of this. And that was like what I was telling you about earlier, when I changed some of the dialogue because it just didn't like flow, didn't feel real.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of that, and that was really fun because I love to write. And then I think later on, like we worked on more like pre-production stuff, behind the scenes stuff, funding and all that, which my mom handled beautifully. I would like to say that. She was very good at that. But then we started working actually on the set. I believe that was a week of filming. And oh my gosh, that was like the best week of my life. It was so amazing. Yeah, but we would show up at the set every day, I think at like 7 or 8. It was early, but I liked it because it was just so fun to actually have something that I looked forward to like getting up early and go doing. That was not proper grammar, but you know what? I just got a little excited there.
I followed you.
Just ignore that. But yeah, and then it was just so cool because I also I helped kind of like have ideas for like the costuming and the set, and just seeing that all pulled together was just insane because it was like I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but when I got there and these ideas that were in my head that I'd spent like hours like describing to people, trying to get them to understand, to comprehend, it was just out there. And I was like, oh my gosh, like how did you get inside of my head? And that was so fun. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it seems like you had your hand in most every aspect of that production.
Yeah.
So you got to really experience it.
Yes, and that was my favorite part because I really everything about film, about making a show, I enjoy every single aspect of it. Oh, and oh my goodness, the when we were doing when we were recording voiceovers, when we were in the recording studio, that was also amazing. Like making seeing I don't know what to call him. I believe it's sound designer is the official term, but seeing him in action, seeing him just making all this music, recording people's voices, just like the acting directions that he gave, it was so amazing to watch. He's just so talented, and just being around that many talented people, like the directors, the set designers, like oh my gosh, it was so awesome.
I can tell it lit you up, like creatively and just in terms of like how you might want to spend your time in college and
Mm-hmm.
beyond. It's it's just like popping off of you. So wonderful. During that time, did you learn anything about yourself that surprised you?
Um, Actually, yes. I didn't realize that I could be so passionate about something. I think is the most prominent thing. Um, I don't know, cause obviously, like for the past few years, it's been like post COVID, and I think before that, I had a lot more energy, I think is the best way to put it, and during and after that I kind of lost it, and just to be able to actually discover something that like my new self like actually loves. I like the fact that I wanted to get up at like 6 a.m. every day and just go drive over to that studio. That was amazing to me because I don't know, after COVID, like during 2020, I would sit there on my math Zoom and I would stare out the window and look at squirrels. That was the most exciting thing to do. But the fact that after all that boredom, after all that, just ugh, like I found something that lit me up that much. That I think, and the fact that it came from something that my mom and I
Yeah.
started together and have worked on for so long, and it's been in my life for so long, that I think that made it all the more awesome because again it was just like this idea that was in my mind is just out here, and that just feels so weird.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty electric, all of those things coming together. And it seems like the way you describe how we all got a little muted during COVID and after, and kind of reconnecting with what you're passionate about or rediscovering something you're passionate about, that I feel like that's a very universal experience, and you described it so well.
Well, thank
Thank
you.
you. Um, can you talk about what weighs on you when you think about teenagers and navigating life? Like, not even you personally, but just like the state of growing up. Like, what's heavy for you about it?
I think I would say one of the main things is honestly just the process of growing up,
Mm.
because it's just so strange to go from this little 5-year-old to, almost an adult, because I think a common thing right now for me and my friends, just honestly me and all of my peers, we're all just thinking like we still feel like we're 5 years old. Why are we applying to college? Like this is so wrong. Um, and I think it's just kind of the process of working past that, being like admitting to yourself, oh no, I'm not this little anymore. Like my life is about to change a lot. I think that's one of the main things. And I don't know, it's just like you have to hope that you're aging well, but
Yeah. It can be jarring to be like,
mhm.
whoa, like this next phase of my life is coming, ready or not, kind of thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the people around you would like a vote that you are 100% ready and you're going to thrive and do amazing in your next chapter.
Mhm. And that's a little hard to give.
Tell me what the adults that are around teenagers kind of having that realization of like, whoa, I'm almost an adult and this is happening. Tell me what the adults are doing that's helping and what they're doing that's making it harder.
I think that honestly, I would give an example of my college counselors. They are just such angels. They're such angels, and I love them. But I think the best way to put it is that they understand and they recognize that these kids don't really know what's going on. They don't really know what they're getting themselves into. So they definitely try to be conscious of that, but they also recognize that, oh, they are getting older, so they're definitely not going to want us to treat them like little kids. But I don't know, they kind of just find the correct in between of like those both of those things. Whereas I think a lot of other adults, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this, but a lot of them, they kind of get angry with you because you are in that in-between phase. But again, it's like there's nothing you can really do because we are trying to grow up, but obviously it's a little hard because, we spent 17, 18 years being kids, so that's just not the easiest switch there is.
I love how you describe the helpers, like the people who are striking that right note of understanding where y'all are developmentally and that you don't know what you don't know, but that you are at this point in your lives where you do know a lot and you know yourselves and you don't want to be treated like babies, and like striking the balance between those two is what has felt most supportive to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really good advice for all of us. Thank you for articulating it like that.
Happy to help.
If you could have a chat with like 5-year-old Emma, what would you say to her?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I feel like I keep praising your questions, but that's a good one. I don't know, honestly. I feel like there are so many things. I don't know if I would tell myself anything. Because, again, something I said before was I don't really want to know what's happening next. I feel like that would make life kind of dull. If we're talking a literal standpoint, if I could actually go back and tell myself something,
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's such a good full circle that, like, for you, the electricity is in the not knowing.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like just in spending this time with you that you really value everything you've gone through, even the hard stuff. Is that right? Or am I?
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that as kind of sad sounding as it is, I think that the difficulties that a person goes through kind of makes them who they are. Obviously, the happy things too, but good things and bad things are going to happen in somebody's life, and how you handle those experiences is what makes you who you are. Because you could let those things bring you down. You could let them make you into a bad person, or you could just choose to not. And that's something that my mom has always told me. That's something that honestly I've gotten from Tacky Box. I just gotta rise above.
Yeah.
It's simply, I don't really know how to phrase that, but it's just that simple. You just gotta rise above.
No, I think you phrased it perfectly. It's like kind of chart where you want to go and how you want to show up on the way to it, and then just have your experiences and enjoy the surprises.
Pretty much.
This question is going to sound like it's coming out of nowhere, and it may not be worth the time. So you can say pass or you can go there. But like, I'm finding myself curious of how the people who understand you and get you would describe you if I was talking to them and I said, hey, describe Emma. And how the people who don't get you might describe you.
I think that I would say I've dealt with a lot of people who don't get me. And again, no shade to them. It's just different people on different levels. Nothing you can do about that. But I have been called too much a lot, and I don't really think a person is ever too much. I think you just have to find people who are the same amount of everything as you. And I really don't think it's fair to call a person too much. Because again, like, too much for you, yeah, but not too much for all of the people who really love me. And I think I just kind of had to realize that, basically. I had to realize that I was not too much. I just wasn't around the right people. But yeah, I feel like the people I surround myself with now, hopefully, I think they would call me creative. I don't want to, like, this reminds me of just, like, writing all my college applications, like, trying to think of words to describe me, and I'm like, oh, I don't really know. But yeah, I would hope they would view me as creative, and just not even in just like art or anything, just in every aspect, like creative thinking, just a creative way of living life, you know?
Totally. I love it. So good. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but I was a therapist for years, and then I coached leaders, and I cannot tell you how many of us at my age and older are trying to make sense of those early "you're too much" messages, and the fact that you already are grappling with that and kind of have a handle on, that's not mine to carry, thanks but no thanks, is just brilliant. And it makes me so excited to see where that creativity and clarity take you in your life. It's really something. I swear I'm not just saying it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right. What do you think about like some lightning round questions? If I ask you some just quick answer ones, see what comes up.
I can do this.
You can. You totally can. And I hate it when people ask me to name my favorite anything. It paralyzes me because I'm like, So it's more like a favorite, never the favorite. Okay.
Okay. I see what you mean.
So a favorite snack.
Pretzels.
Straight or seasoned? Like what's your pretzel of choice?
Just like the ones like that. I love them. My friend brings them to school for me.
Ones?
No, just like the straight ones.
The sticks.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
the
so
sticks.
good. So good. Them. Okay, I knew I liked you. A favorite song.
This Is Me Trying by Taylor Swift. I love that song. Gotta shout out my girl Taylor. Gotta shout out my girl.
Yes. Who you're her doppelganger. I know
I've been getting that a lot since, I think, January this year. It's just been flying at me, and I'm not arguing with it. I like it. Keep it coming.
Keep it coming. She's powerful and amazing, just like you. So that's a great compliment. All right. If you had an extra $100, what would you do with it?
I would go get fried rice with my friends, to be quite frank.
Oh, that's nice. Oh my gosh, I'd like to treat you and your friends to fried rice. That seems like a very fair dream. Okay, if you had an extra hour, what would you do?
I would start one of the books that's in my backpack. I'm just so busy, I don't have time.
A novel, or is it like fiction or nonfiction, or?
It's fiction. I don't remember what it's called, but it's this classic that I picked up from Barnes and Noble, and I've been meaning to read it because I've heard so many good things about it. My mom told me it was so good, but I just never had the time, and that's really annoying because I've heard everybody raving about this book, and it's like, I really want to read it, but nothing I can do about that.
You're pulled in lots of directions at the moment.
Yeah.
That will not always be true, but for now. I love that you carry it around just in case.
ever get the time.
Do you ever listen to books? Are you
I
like
listen to books when I'm like when my mind's all over the place. When I need something to help me focus. I'll listen to. I have to read a chapter kind of like every night for my English class, or I guess my literature class, and I'll listen to it because I gotta have some help getting into that.
Yes,
Because
yes, yes.
if I'm being forced to read something, then it's a little hard.
Yes, very fair. Very fair. If there were no restrictions in terms of legality or space or anything, what kind of pets would you have?
I would have a giraffe.
Oh.
I really like giraffes.
Yes, they're very cool.
I know, they're really cute too.
What do you like about them? Just like their
I don't know.
presence?
I just like giraffes. You know? Oh, I would also have a shark. Because that's really cool. I would have a great white shark. Come on.
A shark and a giraffe?
Heck yeah.
Say yes.
Yes,
And
of
they're
course.
friends.
Yes.
Yes.
Always.
I love. My dad was 7 feet tall, so I have an affinity for anything giant.
Oh my
That
gosh.
sounds good to me. So giraffes are very comforting. Okay, last question, Emma. Unless you have something, do you have anything you want to make sure you share before I ask you your last one?
I don't believe I do. I think you've asked some pretty good questions.
Yes, I've loved talking to you. It's been so nice. I'm so delighted that I have access to what comes next for you, because I'm going to be like sitting on the edge of my seat with my popcorn and cheering you on for life. I can promise you that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, last question. What feels true for you at 17 that you are sure will still feel true for you at 77?
I love people. I just love people. My favorite thing to do is just talk to people. It doesn't matter if they're one of my best friends or a stranger. I will talk to anybody if I get the chance. I love hearing about people's lives. And I think that a lot of people just don't realize how much important information other people have to share. Just, especially like when I'll talk to a grandparent. It doesn't even have to be mine. Just like hearing things that they've learned throughout their life. I just think that that's the most important information there is out there. I think that if I could choose between the knowledge of other people and the knowledge that I'm like forced to learn by some of my teachers, I would choose the knowledge of other people because it's real.
Perfect note to end on. Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Could not have done a better job, Emma. That was perfect.
Thank you very much.